Okay, let's jump right into this. Welcome to today's explainer. We are diving headfirst into an incredibly urgent and honestly totally fascinating battle that's happening right now in the digital world. It's called the Stop Killing Games movement. And look, we're not just talking about losing access to a fun pastime here. We are talking about consumer rights, the preservation of digital art, and the literal survival of the media we buy. The stakes are way higher than just, hitting buttons on a controller.
So, I want you to really think about this for a second. What if every single copy of your absolute favorite movie, or your favorite book, or your favorite album just vanished? Poof, gone. And I don't mean it got taken off a streaming service. I mean it was rendered completely, 100% inaccessible for everyone on the planet forever. You'd probably think that's insane, right? Like there's absolutely no way an entire medium could just be legally wiped from existence like that.
Well, that brings us to Section 1, the disappearing game epidemic.
Because that impossible vanishing act we just talked about, it is actually happening right now, completely legally in the multi-billion-dollar video game industry. Ross Scott, who founded the Stop Killing Games movement, has this brilliant universal analogy. Think about traditional media, books, movies, right? Even if a book is outright banned or actively destroyed by a government, some copies almost always survive somewhere. Physical reality kind of protects them. But modern live service video games? They can be completely disabled for everyone on Earth with the literal flip of a switch. It's basically like a company reaching right into your living room and breaking a toy you already bought.
To really wrap our heads around this, we need to find what we're actually talking about here, which is the killed game. A killed game is a video game that has been intentionally disabled by its publisher, rendering every single sold copy in existence completely unplayable for anyone, anywhere. It literally does not matter if you have the physical disc sitting on your shelf or if you have the files safely downloaded to your hard drive. The game is dead. It's a piece of creative work that is effectively destroyed.
And that's exactly where Ross Scott and the Stop Killing Games consumer movement step in. Their mission is super straightforward, but honestly, it's revolutionary. They want to legally prohibit publishers from selling you a copy of a game, arbitrarily disabling it down the road, and just keeping your money. Ross realized that video games are one of the very few mediums where it can actually be impossible to preserve the art. So yes, this is absolutely a fight for basic consumer rights, but it's also a massive battle for digital art preservation.
All right, let's move into Section 2, the perfect legal catalyst.
So, how do you actually fight back against a massive, deeply entrenched industry practice? Well, you need a flashpoint. You need the perfect storm to launch a global counter-offensive. And that flashpoint arrived with the shutdown of a massive 2010s driving game called The Crew, published by Ubisoft. When Ubisoft announced they were pulling the plug on this game, it obviously sucked for the fans, but it was actually the exact moment the preservation movement had been waiting for. It was the ultimate test case for consumer law. 12 million. I really want that number to sink in for a second. That is the total number of people who played The Crew. 12 million people effectively lost access to a product they paid good money for. But strategically speaking, for Ross Scott and the movement, this meant there was a massive pool of people who had concrete proof of purchase, millions of receipts that could be sent straight to consumer protection agencies to finally challenge the legality of this whole practice. And this perfectly illustrates why Ubisoft shutting down this specific game was the ultimate target. Beyond the sheer size of the player base and all those receipts, Ubisoft is headquartered in France. Why does that matter? Well, France has some of the absolute strongest consumer protection laws in the entire world, and they operate under the strict regulatory framework of the European Union. Add to that, Ubisoft was pretty much the only major EU publisher actively engaging in this killing practice at the time. It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to test whether game destruction is actually legal under the strictest consumer laws on the planet.
And let me tell you, that single spark spread like wildfire. It rapidly expanded into a massive global fight. They launched the European Citizens Initiative, which is this huge official legislative channel alongside coordinated government petitions in Canada, the UK, and Australia. Practically overnight, governments worldwide were suddenly being forced to look at this and ask, wait, is it actually legal to just take away a product someone bought simply because the publisher doesn't feel like supporting it anymore?
This leads us right into Section 3, the big server misconception.
Now, whenever this topic comes up, the game industry instantly points to the logistics. They say, we can't afford to keep multiplayer servers running forever. But here's the thing, and Ross Scott addresses this directly. He says, in no way are we asking companies to keep servers running or services going. This right here is the absolute biggest myth surrounding the entire movement. Literally nobody, not the gamers, not the hardcore preservationists, expects a business to pay for eternal server upkeep. That would be completely unreasonable. The core pivot of the argument is actually super simple. Publishers can end service anytime they want. Seriously, anytime. But they have to do it responsibly. The entire movement is laser-focused on prohibiting the permanent disabling of the customer's purchased copy. It's all about what happens after the official servers are turned off.
If you think back to 90s PC games, they were inherently safe. As long as you could connect them directly to a computer without needing to essentially ask a publisher for permission, they would run indefinitely. But modern killed games, they're built entirely differently. They require you to connect through the publisher's servers first, sometimes even just to play single-player offline content. The movement isn't trying to tell companies how to build or sell their games. They're just saying, hey, once you cut the server cord, the game shouldn't automatically self-destruct on my end.
Which brings us to our final section. Section 4, a future for preservation.
So, if the solution isn't running servers forever, what does a sustainable, legal future for digital ownership actually look like? Well, the answer is this really logical, highly practical strategy called an end-of-life plan. Basically, when a publisher decides they're completely done with a game, they just issue a final patch or release software modifications that allow customers to keep running the game independently. They just cut the tether to the mothership and let the game live on using local machines or private fan servers.
Let's walk through exactly how simple and reasonable this proposed end-of-life plan really is. Step 1, the publisher makes a standard business decision to end official support. Totally fine. Step 2, you, the customer, get a nice 30 to 60-day heads-up notification saying, hey, we're wrapping things up. And step 3, you download a final patch or a set of files. From that point onward, you are completely on your own, no official support, but the game you paid for still functions. See? It perfectly bridges the gap between the publisher's business model and your basic consumer rights.
But we definitely have a long way to go. Right now, only about 5% of companies, that's roughly 1 in 20, actually offer these end-of-life plans responsibly. The vast majority, a staggering 95%, simply do not. They just hit the kill switch and shut the game off entirely. And honestly, this massive discrepancy proves exactly why the Stop Killing Games movement believes legal mandates are totally necessary. The industry clearly isn't going to fix this practice on its own.
The crazy thing is, if this movement succeeds, your day-to-day experience wouldn't even change. Buying a game would look exactly the same tomorrow as it does today. The only difference? Peace of mind. We would be restoring the basic fundamental assumption of consumerism, that when you hand over your hard-earned money for a piece of digital art, it's not going to arbitrarily disappear at some nebulous point in the future.
Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. I want you to go look at your digital libraries tonight. Your games, your movies, your music. If all those servers went dark tomorrow, what do you actually, truly own? It's a massive question that the Stop Killing Games movement is forcing the entire world to answer, and honestly, the outcome is going to define the future of digital consumerism for all of us. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the hard questions, and I'll catch you next time.